And the Chinese, their economic situation is bad. The Americans and the Europeans have reduced the imports from China. It's 20% drop in their exports. So they're looking for the next market. And India is the largest market in the world today, untapped.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get ingress here.
Welcome to Strat News Global and welcome to The Gist. I'm Surya Gangadharan. You're watching another edition of The Gist, and our focus is on this book, China, the Hardening State. It's by Jayadeva Ranade, our guest in this edition, and we're going to ask him about how hard China is going to get. So let me come straight to the title, The Hardening State. Is there worse to come? They're going to get tougher with us, with the world?
I think they're going to get tougher in the process of achieving what their goal is. I'm not saying that they're going to achieve it, but in the process of achieving their goal, which is to be the world's preeminent power, which means also replacing the United States.
Yeah.
And in the process, they have to carve out their own backyard, which is Asia, where in fact Mao in the 40s said that they will be the security guarantors for Asia, and there can be only one tiger on the mountaintop. So that rules out anyone else competing. But it's going to be turbulent time because I don't see Japan, Vietnam, Australia, India acquiescing to Chinese overlordship. But it will be a turbulent time, and China will harden in the process. Its attitude in foreign policy towards its neighbors, towards other countries, and domestically, Xi Jinping will tighten controls even further in order to ensure that there is no factionalism and which threatens his supremacy domestically.
I notice in your contents, the chapters, there's a lot of focus on Xi Jinping. So he's the man who's actually driving this hardening of the state. And I mean, he's the central character here, really.
That's true. Actually, there are, in history, you'll notice that there are some leaders who leave virtually an indelible imprint on the minds of their people and on the history of the country. And in China, his own acolytes have been saying, but it took time for everyone else to, I think, subscribe to it, that after Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, Xi Jinping is the next leader who will set the pace. And sure enough, and China will see a new 30-year era. So that's what we are seeing. And I think it is the push and the drive that Xi Jinping has given that has pushed China into this phase. He's also, of course, discarded things like what Mao did and more what Deng Xiaoping did of bide your time, etc. So he's pushing hard and he's more assertive. So we are seeing that, and I think he's contributed a lot to the process of hardening of the state. Mind you, during Mao's time it was hard. It had softened somewhat under Deng, but it has become certainly harder under Xi Jinping with the use of technology.
We've been reading about purges in the Communist Party, purges of top-ranking generals. Has this created any, it doesn't appear to have created any opposition to him, nothing that seems apparent.
He brought the People's Liberation Army under the purview of the party's anti-corruption body in 2013. And since then has launched an unrelenting anti-corruption drive, a very sustained drive, with the likes of which have not been seen in China till now. And in the process, he has targeted generals, he has targeted other officers who he feels were either corrupt or an impediment to the implementation of the reforms that he envisaged. So both categories. I think in the last few years, I'm noticing among the charges listed in the few cases that are publicized, loyalty also figures. So these are the categories I think where people are being removed. And in the PLA structure, I don't see any signs of resentment. Earlier, we used to see some stray articles, etc. We are not seeing that now. I think the political commissar system has got tightened. They've got more authority, and the generals are not. There's no sign of discontent. Of course, it's led to a very piquant situation where you have very limited number of people in the Central Military Commission. You have, instead of two vice chairmen, only one. And here, in fact, I think what you're alluding to are people picked up by Xi Jinping also having been removed. But then most of the generals today are people who've been selected and promoted by Xi Jinping. So I think factionalism is one factor and corruption is the second.
But there is no organized movement against him.
None that is discernible, and I think it will be very difficult for such a movement to really happen. I'm not saying it will not happen, but it's very difficult because even members of the Politburo Standing Committee, 7 people who rule China, in 7th being Xi Jinping himself, they are under surveillance now. And that started in 2019 when Xi Jinping put them under surveillance, pruned their authority to recruit people, to hire people, to pay people, and also mandated or instructed that the agenda for central committee meetings, Politburo meetings, etc., need to be approved by him. And I guess the reason is that he doesn't want to be surprised at a meeting with some agenda point which targets him. So I think the controls are very tight, and this system is pervaded all through. Secondly, he's also enhanced and strengthened the public security or the security apparatus in China. And I'm talking about the domestic system at the moment, where the strength of which has more than doubled. Its budget has more than doubled. And it is the only, if I may call it a system, whose budgets were not pruned even when all the others were during the COVID period and after.
So this is the internal security budget.
Internal security budget.
Is that larger than what the PLA or the military gets?
Yes, it is slightly larger than the PLA's budget now. Earlier it was much larger, but it is still larger than the PLA budget. Because that's the key to retaining power.
So he sees his main threat as internal, really.
Yes, I think he sees the main threat as internal. But
And the party, obviously.
Within the party. Whatever threat comes, it will have to be within the party. Unless, there is a popular uprising, but, the last popular kind of movement we saw was Falun Gong, which has been eviscerated. But here I'll say that, the last time we saw it spread all China was during the Tiananmen, which was, again, a power struggle between really the premier and the party general secretary, Li Peng and Chao Ziyang. And it spread to 84 cities. But I really find that difficult to happen now. I'm not saying that people are happy, but they've got to get together to protest and form a group. That will be difficult.
So this is there a target for when he'll be able to, take China up to the next level?
He said he has put 2049 as the target date for China to become the number one.
And he's going to be around till then?
Well, he's already 70, so I don't know. But certainly, I think by all indications, he will be around for the next term, which is the 4th term.
Yeah.
Unprecedented. Even the 3rd is unprecedented, except unless you look at Mao and things like that. But he's got no one whom we can say, or whom we can identify as a successor. And the one person who is in the Politburo Standing Committee, Deng Xiang, he's lying very low because he doesn't want to, sort of behave like a putative general secretary and get eliminated in the process. Because in the past, the experience of such people has been very unfortunate. So he doesn't want to risk that. And there is no one else. They have to really get to know the army. They have to do a province and then come in. Ting Shui Shang had done neither. So there's no one there and young enough to take over. But Xi Jinping can pull off a surprise, and he can pick up someone from a province and bring him in, as much as what Deng Xiaoping did, picked up Jiang Zemin and brought him.
Yeah.
But that will be difficult because I'll just, I'm not giving a solution here, but there was one power struggle which is quite made the political climate in China very turbulent between Xiao Ziyang and Li Peng, as I mentioned. The second was at the time Xi Jinping was taking over, when Po Xilai posed a challenge to him, and then Chang Yao-kang came in and posed a challenge to him. He was able to surmount it. But there is no, and at that time there was no revolutionary leader still around who had that authority. Now there is also none. So if there is a power struggle, it can be quite a feud, it can be quite protracted, and it can damage the party.
I want to come to India. In your chapter, you say China has just raised the level of threat for India. Would you explain?
Well, firstly, let me say that this was written before the latest move. But that doesn't mean that the threat to India is less. In the sense that this chapter talks about actually the infrastructure build-up in Tibet. We already have a couple of highways along the border. They are adding one more. They're building 35 airfields. They're building 2 railway linkages and making Shigatse, which is the second largest city in Tibet, as a hub. So they've got one rail line linking Tibet with Qichao province, another with Xinjiang province, and now a third rail connection is from Chengdu in Sichuan to Lhasa via Ningxia, so it comes from the east. Now, these railway lines reduce drastically the transportation time for troops and material to come into Tibet. But apart from that, China has used these past 5 years since April 2020 when they came in to build up defenses along the border, not only for the current deployment but also anticipated higher deployment. So that is what I mean by threat. Now, we haven't heard shall I say, threatening statements with regard to the dam that is being built at the Great Bend on the Yarlung Tsangpo or the Brahmaputra. But in some of the writings, they do call it a water bomb, and they do say that, we can use that if it comes to it against India. And while they haven't done that precisely, but I think one indicator of the possibility of their using these things is the manner in which they stopped the flow of data to us or the supply of data to us on the rivers during the time of the tension with China. They supplied it to, or during Doklam, they used to give it to Bangladesh, but not to us. So I think these are indicators that they can do this.
So they can weaponize water against us.
They can weaponize. And here I'll just point, I did mention that I'd written this earlier, so I'll just make one additional point, is during Operation Sindoor, we saw China for the first time get directly involved in the operation, not by sending men, but technical assistance and by providing hardware, military hardware and missiles during the conflict. Though it was short-lived, but they were doing it. And that is the first time. So it indicates a change in the Chinese thinking.
Where do you see the China-Pakistan relationship in the context of Islamabad's recent opening up to the US and, the kind of bonhomie on display? Where is this relationship going?
Pakistan is trying to cozy up to the US and, like it was in the past, they need the money, they need the hardware, they need US friendship. It's being done. I mean, one theory could be, and it's just a theory, that the Chinese are saying, yes, go ahead and do it to weaken the India-US relationship. The second could be that Pakistan is doing it on its own for securing more funding, because China doesn't easily part with funds. But whatever they may try, I think if there is expectation in Washington or elsewhere in other strategic circles that Pakistan will get distanced from China or distance itself from China, I think that won't happen. The Chinese are firmly embedded in Pakistan and they control all the key levers inside Pakistan.
So the army is with China, or I mean, how does this work? The army is also looking for support from the US, isn't it?
Yeah, army is looking, but I think on a limited scale. The Pakistan army is committed to the Chinese relationship. And even earlier, if you recall, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the two biggest supporters were the Pak army and their foreign affairs establishment. And they continue to be. And the first visit by Munir was to Beijing, first visit by many chiefs now. And the number of Pak army officers who are trained in China are much more. I don't know how many go to the US now, but most of the officers, the percentage is very high. Their hardware comes from the Chinese. Most of their capabilities are given by the Chinese. So I don't see them moving away from China.
In fact, you could say that the next perhaps round of tensions or whatever, China could use Pakistan as a kind of a tool to target India.
Yes, it could. In fact, even this time, I don't have independent corroboration, but what I've heard from, shall I say, authoritative sources or reliable sources, is that during the Pahalgam or before Pahalgam incident happened, the dastardly attack on civilians, the Chinese satellites had clicked that venue, that particular area, a number of times, much more than others. And I think the number was in excess of about 100 times. Which means connivance at the least. Whereas other satellites were clicked maybe under 10 times. So obviously there is some connivance there.
Just stepping back a bit, the bonhomie that was on display at Tianjin, Modi, Putin, Xi Jinping. How do you see this? I mean, does it convey kind of, does it seem genuine, We seem to have gone there on the rebound from the US. And the sense one gets is that this is not something that actually works.
Well, Surya, if you look at it, actually, each one has a conflicting agenda, in a sense. They have one common agenda, which is to, improve their own people's living conditions, etc. But there are conflicts between each, maybe in the immediate term or short term or long term. But I think as far as India's case is concerned, it would be incorrect to say that we are on a rebound. We had started trying to talk to the Chinese ever since they intruded in April 2020. And we've been going on saying, that let's have a dialogue, peaceful negotiations. The Chinese turned a deaf ear. They just didn't listen. In fact, there was no communication between the Chinese leadership, and I'm talking about Xi Jinping, and our Prime Minister. So they froze us out, literally. But when their economy began deteriorating more rapidly than they anticipated, and they began hurting domestically, the situation was becoming more and more difficult to manage. I can go into that in detail if you like. I think then the Chinese gave the first indication that they're willing to talk. And during the border talks, they did actually agree to discuss Depsang and Demchok, 2 points. So we should not exaggerate that the entire LAC has suddenly cooled off. But 2 points at least we have discussed. But that was enough of an opening, I think, for us to start, trying to look at other things. So there has been some positive movement on Depsang. There has been talk of positive movement on Demchok, but I personally have identified a few more formations there. So I don't know how much of it is, but still.
You mean the numbers there have gone up?
Then they have got some new formations there, and I don't know overall numbers, but they are there. But at least it provided an opening, and we began talking. Then the SCO summit, Wang Yi came here, their foreign minister,
Yeah.
and I think gave another positive indicator, because when Jaishankar raised the issue of fertilizers, rare earths, and the tunnel boring machines, he said, I've taken note, and I believe by the end of the day or next morning, they had conveyed that they will be approving that. So those are positive indicators that have happened. So I think we have pushed ahead with it, and quite understandably so. We have a long border with China.
Yeah.
It's unsettled. And, deploying so many troops there is a strain, not
Yeah.
only financially, but even on our resources. It's a strain for the Chinese too, but for us, there is a strain. And the Chinese, their economic situation is bad. The Americans and the Europeans have reduced the imports from China. It's 20% drop in their exports. So they're looking for the next market. And India is the largest market in the world today, untapped.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get ingress here. And that's their effort. Now, our industry, sad to say, is in a pretty, I don't know, but they seem to just want to get things from elsewhere. They're not producing anything themselves. But they're looking for getting all the raw materials, etc., from the Chinese. Now they're talking about collaboration in electronic products.
Yeah.
I think they should be looking elsewhere. Look at Taiwan, look at South Korea, etc. But by doing this, they're actually adding to our dependence.
Yeah.
So I think, but anyway, it helps them, it helps us in the short term if we are wanting to keep our economy going. But I hope the government takes, steps to prevent this kind of dependence growing again.
There's been a lot of kind of doomsday reporting about the Chinese economy. They seem to have coped well. And even with the Trump tariffs and all, they've held their ground, not budged an inch. How bad is it really?
It's pretty bad, but let's not forget that they have already built up a capacity to a certain level.
Yeah.
Secondly, their economy is a huge economy, it's a large economy. So even if they start doing badly and it starts deteriorating, it's going to take time before it comes down. And thirdly, they have huge reserves of cash, which they're still splashing around. So that's on the plus side. But if just to give you a quick sketch on the internal situation, they have slashed the budgets of virtually all the departments since COVID. As I said, except the security department. And now what we are seeing is the foreign affairs, security, and defense are back to where they were, and they've risen, they've gone more. They're pumping a lot of money into science and technology and AI, but otherwise the budgets are down. They have a problem of aging, which is catching up.
Demographic.
That means a working person, younger working person, has to take care of more than four elderly people. I mean, two parents on each side. So that's going to add a burden. They have run short of funds to give pensions to their people. And I'm quoting official statements here. They are giving, they don't have an advantage like us. We have a huge domestic consumption. They don't have it. They're an export-led economy. So they are giving their people subsidies in the form of what they call living allowance in the major cities, including on their more prosperous provinces on the eastern seaboard, to spend money and buy consumer products, etc., to absorb the surplus that they are producing. So their economy is in a bad shape. They have cut the wages of government employees by 30%. They have withdrawn the bonuses that were paid. So the situation is not good. But as I said, it's going to take time before they go down. And they've been looking at India as a way of getting in.
Yeah.
Thanks to Trump, I would say Trump, what he has done has given impetus to what we're doing. But at the same time, I hope we are careful, because we should not create an additional dependency,
Yeah.
in addition to what we already have. And I think here the government does need to crack the whip on industry and tell them to start making things themselves without depending on others. So I think that's necessary. And as far as the US is concerned, I think like they've given the Chinese, they've given us a reminder that, they're not really trustworthy.
Yeah.
But on the China side, let me just say, I'll add to what you said, in fact. that they stood up to the Americans. I think they not only stood up, they've shown them
Yeah.
that they have the levers on
Yeah.
rare earths. If you recall, the Americans and Trump included were going hammer and tongs against Chinese students and
Yeah.
saying they're doing this, that, and the other. We don't want them. Began harassing them at the airports and entry points. And the Chinese reached out to the Americans saying, this has got to stop. It didn't. They turned off the rare earths. 24 hours, Trump changed his tune. And he said, actually, I want Chinese students here. The latest, he's asked for 600,000
Yeah.
Chinese. I mean, I don't think they're going to go because the
Yeah.
Chinese have stopped applying for American universities, large numbers. But they have a lot more levers. And they've been preparing for pressure from the Americans since 2017, 2018. So they're ready.
Is there a kind of breaking point internally in China when things reach a stage where the public can't take it anymore? Is that where would you say it would come? How could it come?
Well, I guess with every people there is a breaking point when they lose confidence in their authorities or in their government. Here, at one stage, it had come, I would say, tensions had risen appreciably
Yeah.
around the time of COVID. And at the time, the government had introduced the quarantines, etc. They were doing it in a very hard fashion, and there was a lot of resentment. So the government pulled back. So it's gone down. I think I don't see that right now. On this note, I must say that the moment Xi Jinping applied a comprehensive ban on rare earth exports, there was a surge in his popularity on the social media, and his position seems to have strengthened. So I don't see that having come up. But the two things I will say, Surya. Firstly, it needs some leader from within the Communist Party who is acceptable to the people to really lead any kind of opposition. And I think Xi Jinping has
Doesn't
really
allow.
got them. He does not allow.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that in a authoritarian state or in a communist state, both the same actually, things can change
Overnight, yeah.
overnight. I mean, we know what happened to the old Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So one can't lay a bet on it, but I think going by what I see right now, I really don't see a challenge to Xi Jinping.
Last question about China, the fact that they haven't fought a war in 70 odd years. And do you really think, I mean, they are modernizing their military? We've seen enormous strides in the way they are building up their armed forces. But are they willing to go that extra mile, initiate a war, perhaps over Taiwan, perhaps with us?
Well, with us, they've already
Done, yeah.
come close to it. But Xi Jinping has told the PLA to be ready as a world-class army to fight and win wars by 2027. That's
Wow, 2
not
years
very
away.
far away, 2 years away. That's the 100th anniversary of the PLA founding. So that's the target. They have undoubtedly got a lot of modern weaponry. And we saw it on display on the 3rd of September.
Yeah.
40,000 men. And I don't know whether you saw the videos, the way they marched.
Yeah, absolutely.
You compare it with the way Washington had their march. It was, they were way ahead. But the key points here I would mention are the weaponry that they displayed, state of the art, modern, all made in China. That is what will give them the strength. Secondly, they are preparing for a military takeover of Taiwan. They are preparing to subjugate us. And not only that, they're also preparing to take whatever action is necessary to recover their claimed territories from Japan, from Vietnam, etc., and the Philippines. So they're building up the Navy, one frigate every 3 months. I mean, it's a mind-boggling figure.
Yeah.
They're building the 4th aircraft carriers, now almost done. They'll start on their 5th. Obvious question is where will they be sailing? But that's the kind of Navy. The Navy is the largest in the world, 378 already. And their army is large. If we see the exercises they carry out, the war games that they have, they're preparing. Whether they actually want conflict, I think their hope is, or their expectation is, that they can scare the enemy into submission. So the Chinese, the Taiwanese, or us, or others. That hasn't happened yet. But in the meantime, they have a secret weapon, if I may call it, which is their united front. And they are operating from inside the countries, where they're trying to win over or subvert or suborn um, politicians, bureaucrats, journalists, academics, etc. And when India, Taiwan, Japan, all are democracies. Australia is a
Yeah, all open
democracy.
societies.
So
Yeah.
they're able to operate very freely. You have their ambassador writing editorials or writing articles. You can't do it in China. They place advertisements. We can't do it in China. And Australia's, they have a four-corner news media which exposed the Chinese United Front activities in Australia. We are seeing the Chinese United Front activities in India. You just see during the time of Doklam or April 2020, some of the articles that came from academics and others were very pro-China, a pro-China line. These guys are all, I would say,
all over the place.
either won over by them or working for them. And you see the trips that, I was just reading some of the articles by some of the journalists who traveled to Tibet recently at the invitation of the Chinese. And they are writing a new story compared to what they were singing, the tune before they went. So these things the Chinese are doing. I don't think they'll willingly want to go in for a conflict, but if they're prepared, and that's the crucial question, prepared to the extent that I think even the Americans are apprehensive of really going in, because you don't see them challenging them in the South China Sea or in the Taiwan Strait. They're very careful. So I think
interesting times ahead.
Interesting times ahead.
Jayadeva Ranade, on that note, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
And let's hope it sells well. I'm sure it will. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's all we have for you on this edition of The Gist. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. Thank you very much.